Welcome to Renosa's Monthly Power Insights. As your trusted Pacific Northwest manufacturer's rep in the emergency power generation industry, we are proud to offer expert guidance on genset components. Throughout the series, we'll explore how to optimize system design, select the right equipment, and support uninterrupted power. Whether you're an engineer, specifier, or project manager, we're here to help you design smarter, install more confidently, and keep the power on when it matters most. Let's dive in.
All right, good morning, folks. My name is Tony Crandall. I am National Sales Manager with SENS, that's Stored Energy Systems. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the SuperTorque 8Z engine starting system. First and foremost, though, I'll let you know a little bit about SENS. So we've been around since 1971. Most folks know us for our battery chargers, but SENS is so much more than just battery chargers. Over on the right-hand side of the screen there, bear with me on that. I'm left-handed, so I always start on the right. Battery monitoring systems. So about 5 years ago, we purchased a company called Phoenix Broadband. They are located in the eastern part of Pennsylvania, and they provide anything and everything as far as battery monitoring systems are concerned. As a matter of fact, a lot of those monitoring systems are in process of being incorporated into virtually all of the SENS offerings across the board. That being said, here in the middle of the screen, we're looking at industrial DC power. On that side, we are known for our Power Cab and Power Cab 2 DC switchgear. And then over on the left-hand side, I've already mentioned the battery chargers within our engine starting solutions, but we also are known for our redundancy systems, which is our best battery selector. There are 3 sizes there. And then the integrated starting systems, which is the SuperTorque 8Z that I've mentioned, and also the 8Z rack system, which we're going to be talking about. So traditionally, for engine starting, lead acid batteries have been about 90% of the overall offering. NiCads are out there as well, but more often than not, within the lead acid for a large engine, you're looking at between 2 and 16 8D batteries. Maintenance is required with them on at least a monthly basis, and generally speaking, especially in an NFPA 110 type of environment, you're looking to have to replace them about every 24 to maybe 36 months or so. And speaking with the folks at Corporate Cummins and Caterpillar, they all agree, as do I from working in the industry for about 30 years, that battery failure is the #1 reason why a mission critical generator fails to start when it's called upon. And we believe with the SuperTorque 8Z, we have a solution for overcoming a great deal of those failures. So a little bit about the 8Z itself. The image up there on the far top left is a really good image as far as informing you about what's inside the unit. So located within the 8Z itself are 2 nickel-zinc batteries. This is a different chemistry than most folks are familiar with, but it is a tried and true proven chemistry. 2 batteries are included whenever you're in a 24-volt type of setup. This offering is available in 12-volt, and if you are set up in a 12-volt setting, it's simply 1 battery inside. There is an open frame version of our SENS Microgenius 2 battery charger inside the unit as well. And then it does come with a full array of communications that will get you fully up to speed on as we go. We kind of refer to this as a simple plug and play type of format, because this 8Z that you're seeing there on the screen, it is meant to replace up to 4 8D batteries and an external charger, and comes to you with all of the communications built in. It simplifies the entire system in a significant fashion. And this is a maintenance-free unit. Therefore, you plug it in, you start playing with it, and you forget about it. It's that simple. So a little bit about the advantages of the 8Z itself. So more power over less space. As I mentioned before, the 8Z is meant to replace up to 4 8D batteries. That's because the nickel-zinc battery chemistry has a very high power to mass and power to weight ratio, meaning it is a really powerful, really small package compared to the competition out there. So the unit itself does have a design life of 15 years and comes with a basic standard manufacturer's warranty of 10 years. And that is a non-prorated warranty, meaning if you have a unit out there on site for, let's call it 9 years, and for whatever reason you experience a failure, it does get replaced, and the new unit does have a 10-year warranty on it as well. Reliable, revolutionary power. So this eliminates the #1 cause for generator failure, which, as we mentioned, are battery failures. In comparison to traditional lead acid, the nickel-zinc battery chemistry is 96% lower regarding greenhouse gases emissions. There is a lower total cost of ownership. It's about a 50% cost savings for the owner of the equipment over the lifespan. And we're going to continue to go more in depth with that as we go also. And as I mentioned before, this is a maintenance-free sealed unit. This image is pretty telling as far as what we're talking about regarding the small package aspect of the 8Z. So when it's set up with the two nickel zinc batteries inside in a 24-volt format, this thing weighs 89 pounds. Conversely, when you're looking at 4 or more 8D batteries, they generally are going to weigh about 120 to 140 pounds a piece. So you're looking at a huge space and weight savings by going the route of the SuperTorque 8Z. As I mentioned before, it does come with a full 10-year warranty versus traditionally having to replace lead acid batteries every 24 to 36 months. It is a maintenance-free unit as well versus having to do regular maintenance on your lead acid and NiZn setups. So some of the specifications about the 8Z itself. As we go through the specifications, we're going to talk about 4 different line item options that the 8Z has. The first and the foremost is the one that I mentioned before. This thing does come to you in a 12 or 24 volt setup. And with those options, what that means for you is it's not like ordering a traditional battery of, hey, here's one battery and boom, there it is. This is a little bit different. You've got some choices to make regarding the ordering process for the unit. The 12 or 24 volts, this thing is also fully parallelable for both capacity and redundancy. So if you're in a scenario where you've got a generator that's larger than 2 megawatts and you need 2 or more 8Zs, we can parallel seamlessly. It is fully integratable with our best battery selector systems also, especially for when you're needing redundancy built in. The 8Z is also 100% UL listed. It is seismic and OSHPD certified and also NFPA 110 approved based on 2025 standards. The aluminum enclosure is IP22 rated. And now we get into a couple of the additional options that we were talking about before. So the next one is the communications level. So it comes with a base standard communications package of 2 Form C relay contacts and also the USB and SENS bus. From there, you can upgrade to 2 different levels. The first would be a mod bus, which does also include a LCD screen, which provides a significant amount of additional data points. And then from there, if necessary, you can upgrade to the Ethernet, which also does include the LCD screen. The final 2 options are the M8 style threaded inserts come as standard for your DC connection points. If required for your application, you can upgrade from there to a SAE style battery post. And the final option is the mounting. So the 8Z comes with standard rubber feet on the bottom and it does sit flat. However, if you have an application where you require a rigid mount, we can provide mounting brackets that are built into the unit from the factory, and you simply secure the 8Z to whatever surface it is sitting on. So we're going to get into the control panel area here. So as far as the control panel, it's actually on the back side of the 8Z. And once again, I'm left-handed, so we're going to start over here on the right-hand side with your AC power inputs. So on the top here, you have a 110 power source for plugging this thing in simply to the wall in your house if you needed to for charging. And the beauty with the 8Z is it is a very low power requirement for recharging. At that 110 volts, it only requires 4.4 amps to charge the 8Z from 0 in 6.6 hours. There is also a pass-through right there as well. So if you've got multiple units because you're paralleling for either capacity or redundancy, you can pass through from one 8Z to a second unit via that one external plug and be good to go. In that format, you're just simply using 8.8 amps of load to recharge 2 batteries. And if you think about that for a moment, that's 8.8 amps of 110 volt power to recharge 2 batteries that are capable of starting up to a 4 megawatt generator. That is extremely impressive. Here in the middle of the control panel, we do have the Form 2C relay contacts. We've got the Modbus and Ethernet over here. And then the final 2 points that I'll mention are your sleep and your wake up buttons. So the sleep and wake up buttons, all they do is simply put the LCD screen to sleep. so that it is not providing any kind of a parasitic discharge on the 8Z. And the reason why that is needed or inherently necessary is the 8Z has the capability of sitting on a shelf in a fully charged state for up to 6 months with zero discharge on it, meaning you can stock this unit and still have it ready to go, even if it sat on the shelf for 6 months. Once again, that's with it put to sleep. The 8Z will automatically wake itself up in two different formats. Number one is if it receives an actual load. And the second thing is if it receives an AC power input as far as charging is concerned, it will automatically wake itself up. Oh, I would also like to note as well. So the 8Z is approximately the same size as one 8D battery. It is a little bit of a variation from a standard 8Z because it is truly a rectangle in size. And as most of you know, an 8D is a little bit of a taper to it on the bottom. Nickel-zinc battery technology. So the nickel-zinc battery chemistry itself, a lot of folks believe this is a new chemistry. It is not. It has actually been around for well over 100 years, dating all the way back to Mr. Edison and his team. So what the nickel-zinc battery chemistry is good at is a very high discharge over a short period of time, i.e. large engine starting. And it is really good at doing this with significantly high amounts of cycles, meaning this thing is going to be able to start and start and start again. It also works very nicely for your temporary backup power for DC on your data center systems during that brief period of time between a power outage and your backup power generator coming up and online. It does deliver reliable long-term performance in that there is no risk for thermal runaway, and it is also non-flammable. As I mentioned before, we do have the 15-year design life and the 10-year full manufacturer's warranty. Compact power, we already mentioned to you the concept of one SuperTorque 8Z is meant to replace up to 4 8D batteries and will in fact start a 2 megawatt generator. Let's see here. So no sudden failure. So the nickel-zinc chemistry itself does not experience sudden failure. If and when the battery does fail, it actually fails in a closed or conductive state. And what that means is that one last time that battery or that generator is going to be needed to start, it will start the generator. However, via the remote communications that are built in, you will then be experiencing a scenario where you've got alarms going off, letting you know that there's a problem that needs to be taken care of. We mentioned NFPA 110 before, so we are compliant with the NFPA 110 standards per 2025, and that logo you see in the bottom middle there, that is the Zinc 5 logo. The batteries themselves are manufactured by Zinc 5, which is a company based out of Portland, Oregon. And I forgot to mention earlier when we started, so SENS is also based out of Longmont, Colorado, which is just north of Denver, and we manufacture most all of our products right there in-house. So I mentioned prior about the 96% lower greenhouse gases. What that means is it actually happens on 3 different levels. One is during the manufacturing of the product. There are nominal amounts of heat that are needed to produce the nickel zinc batteries because of the type of chemistry that it is. It is literally nickel and zinc, and then there's a potassium hydroxide gel form electrolyte that is inside the unit. From there, during the lifespan of the unit, we also have significantly less greenhouse gases emitted because this is a maintenance-free battery that does not require any truck turns specifically for the battery itself. And then on the back end, excuse me, during the recycling aspect, this is, once again, plated nickel and zinc. Therefore, there are nominal amounts of heat being generated during the recycling process for the battery. It is simply crushed and the individual components are separated from there. There are no solvents, heavy metals, or precious metals inside the unit at all. And because of that, we do not experience any transportation limitations. And what that means for the customer is if we need to, we can ship this unit, this battery, overnight via air. Obviously, overnight air is a little on the expensive side, but it's good peace of mind to know that if a situation requires it, we can do so. And then as far as the recycling is concerned, SENS does cover the recycling in an ideal world from our standpoint. At the end of a battery's life, a customer is buying a new one. What we will do is send a new one with a extra shipping label in the box. The customer simply pulls that one out of the box, installs it into its facility, puts the old one back in, puts the label on the box, and sends it back to us. We will take care of all recycling on our dime, no cost to the customer. And if your particular location does require it, we can provide documentation that the unit is being recycled properly and not, in fact, dumped in the river, so to speak. So what you see on the screen here is a diagram for a 78-liter engine, which is a 2 megawatt generator. That generator had one SuperTorque 8Z connected to it, and a couple points of note are two items. Number one, we did not have an AC power source recharging the 8Z during this test sequence. And number two, we did have the fuel starting solenoid turned off on the generator to ensure that the generator would not actually start. And we were not necessarily trying to simulate a failure of the 8Z. We were just trying to find out what some of the limitations and or feedback data points are if this thing experiences numerous cranking cycles over and over again without, in fact, recharging. So what you see on the screen here during these first 10 are a scenario where we were cranking the generator for 10 seconds and then waiting for an additional 10. Crank for 10, wait for 10, so on and so forth for the first 10. Then from there, we went into a little bit more of a traditional NFPA 110 style sequence in that these last three cranking cycles here were a 10-second crank, a 15-second crank, and a 15-second pause. Some of the key items of note are the overall voltages staying consistently above 20 volts for the cranking of the battery. It performed phenomenally. And the reason why we even stopped the test in the first place was because the cables and the starter on the generator being used for the test were in fact getting extremely warm, and we did not want to risk severe damaging them. So this next slide, we're looking at a 95-liter engine, which is a 3 megawatt generator. This one has two 8Zs connected to it, and it is a traditional NFPA 110 style testing sequence. Once again, there is no AC charging source connected to the battery, and initially we did have the fuel starting solenoid shut off so the generator would not actually start. We went through the three 15-second cycles with the proper pauses in the middle. Then from there, we did turn on the fuel starting solenoid to allow the generator to actually start. A couple points of note here are, you'll notice that it starts out at 28 volts. That's because the nickel-zinc chemistry itself is a chemistry that is actually 1.8 volts per cell. And there are 8 cells within the individual battery, and there are 2 batteries in there, which is how we come up with a total of 28 volts. Another item of note is the low voltage value during the cranking sequence. Essentially, it never went below approximately 22 volts during the cranking sequence, which far exceeds the NFPA requirements. So I mentioned before that there's an approximate 50% cost savings for the end user, or total cost of ownership advantage during the lifespan of the 8Z. And this is the values that you see here are only during the 10-year warranty covered period. So keep in mind the design life of the product is actually 15 years. If you'll note down at the bottom, there are some very conservative values that we used in coming up with this. We were comparing the SuperTorque 8Z here and the lead acid battery technology here. We were assuming a cost of $275 per lead acid 8D battery, which apparently is a very, very conservative value. And the same holds true for the labor replacement cost that we used at $125 an hour. We're being told that those numbers are significantly higher at this point. So what you're seeing is the initial installation of a lead acid setup at $6,900, and then every 2 years, based on NFPA requirements, a $2,100 replacement cost. And once again, with these values being so conservative here, these numbers are likely higher. The additional thing that is not necessarily covered here is inflation, meaning if it actually is in fact $2,100 right now to replace that unit, 8 years from now, it's definitely going to be significantly more. But the nuts and bolts of it is that means this value of $17,800 cost of ownership on a lead acid setup is extremely conservative Conversely, with a nickel zinc, you're going to have an upfront cost for the installation, and then you have no replacement costs, and you also have no maintenance costs over the life of the unit. Therefore, you're going to experience, you as the end user owner, are going to experience a significant cost savings for owning that product versus a traditional lead acid setup. So what is the current status of the 8Z? So as of the end of last year, we had approximately 3,000 units installed in the field. We're looking to have approximately 8,000 or more installed in the field by the end of 2025. Things are moving forward very, very nicely for us with the expansion of the 8Z. The logos that you see over there on the far right are some of the key customers that have essentially bought into ownership of the SuperTorque 8Z. It has been initially accepted most directly into the data center world. However, now that we have the NFPA 110 and UL listing and seismic rating, etc., we're now more readily able to go out to significant other markets to include healthcare, wastewater treatment, industrial, education, government, etc. So we had one of our main customers come to us that had been purchasing the 8Z. They, in fact, had bought hundreds of them from us this past summer and said, look, we love the 8Z. This product has been phenomenal for us, but we're struggling with the installation of it into our housings because we have to manufacture or come up with a design ourselves for essentially the racks that we're putting them on. Can you help us with that? Well, SENS says, yes, we can. SENS is a very heavily engineering-based company. Essentially, we like solving our customers' problems. So if you as a customer have a problem, we are encouraging you to bring the problem to us so that we can help to try and create a solution. The solution we came up with is the 8Z rack system that you see on the screen here. This is a fully customizable and configurable system that once we come up with the configuration that fits your particular need, you as the customer are ordering it via one part number. And with that one part number, it's going to come to you exactly as you see here on the bottom part of the screen. It is going to be fully assembled, fully pre-wired, pre-tested, etc. So that once you receive it in hand, all you need to do is use the lifting eyes that are on top of every unit, drop it into place either in your mechanical room or into the housing that you're configuring, hook up your DC, hook up your AC, your basic communications wiring, and go to town. It does come automatically with a standard battery disconnect as well. It is fully UL listed and seismic rated and OSHPOD certified. We presented this solution to that customer and they very, very quickly loved what they saw and created an order for hundreds of the units. We started producing in January of this year and have now delivered numerous amounts of truckloads to that customer and also others that have signed on to purchase the AZ rack system. So kind of bringing everything around into a nutshell here as far as what we've been talking. Once again, we're going to talk about, or we're going to start over on the right-hand side. So with the SuperTorque 8Z versus your traditional lead acid setup, there are significant weight and space savings. And as most of you are familiar, inside generator mechanical rooms and enclosures, space is very, very sparse and hard to come by. So anything you can do to free up space for working on the equipment, etc., it's a good thing. Greenhouse gas emissions. As compared to lead acid, we are 96% lower on the greenhouse gases emitted. Field labor hours. Once again, this is a maintenance-free sealed unit coming to you from the factory, which means there are no monthly meter readings and conductance tests and etc. that are required for the product. Total cost of ownership savings, as we mentioned, it's approximately a 50% cost savings for the owner of the equipment over the 10-year warranty lifespan. And then when you consider that it does have a 15-year design life, that cost savings is that much more prevalent for the customer. That being said, we do have a little bit of a higher upfront cost versus a traditional lead acid setup. However, we're well within the constraints of being able to overcome that via the other advantages that the 8Z presents. Thank you for your time. Does anyone have any questions?
Thanks, Tony. I mean, almost sounds like the 8Z is too good to be true, but it's encouraging to see that the 8Z actually has been tried and comes out to be a truly game-changing solution for genset starting. We appreciate you taking the time to give us this deep dive into the product and how it comes together with the nickel-zinc chemistry. We've collected a few frequently asked questions to throw at you, and I would
Okay.
encourage anyone who views this video, if you have your own questions after viewing it, to please get in touch with us at Renosa and we can find you answers. So the first one is, can the 8Z be mounted vertically?
Can it be mounted vertically? No, unfortunately it cannot. It does have to lay flat, similar to an 8D battery, and that just simply has to do with the way the batteries themselves that are located inside it are configured.
And I've heard you mention in that same thread that there is a rack system available for the 8Z. Can you speak just a little bit about the rack?
Yes, by all means. So the rack itself, if we were to go back a couple of slides here, it is a fully integratable system that can be designed to fit whatever the customer's need is. If necessary, it can provide multiple 8Zs. There are options for the best battery selector or a best charging. It does also come standard with a battery disconnect and the LCD screens.
Awesome. And can you tell us a little bit about the NEMA rating for the 8Z?
Yes, so the NEMA rating on the 8Z, it is in fact a NEMA 1, and what that means is it does have to be inside some sort of an enclosure or a protected environment. Inside a basic standard generator enclosure is perfectly fine and acceptable, or in a mechanical room, and or if necessary, as far as the application, it can go inside a battery box without issue.
Awesome.
But it cannot be fully exposed to the weather.
Gotcha. What would you say is one of the best ways for calculating how many 8Zs are needed for my particular genset, particularly if I'm considering redundancy or, if I'm just avoiding calling Renosa to find out?
The simple, easiest way would be to call Renosa or to call SENS. But that being said, we're meant to replace, or the 8Z is designed to replace up to 4 8D batteries. Therefore, if in your standard setup you're using between 2 and 4 8D batteries, by default, that means you're going to need 1 8Z. However, if you are in a scenario where you do require redundancy, say, for example, that same exact 4 battery unit, and for the redundancy design of it, it would have an additional 4 8Ds. That now means we have to have 2 8Zs, etc. If in question, by all means, reach out to us and let us know. We do know there are some N+1 type of designs out there that do require a little bit different variation, and we can help get those taken care of for you. We've installed the 8Z now on maybe not every large engine that's out there, but we have gotten it installed and working properly on many, many different models and brands.
Cool. Can you talk a little bit about if there are solutions for keeping the 8Z within the ideal temp range zone?
Yeah, so the ideal temperatures for the 8Z, they actually exceed that of a traditional lead acid battery in that it is allowable from -10 to +55°C. And if by chance you're in an extremely cold environment where you would regularly be exceeding that -10 side, we have done extensive testing with a simple battery blanket. We can provide a recommendation for the battery blanket that we have been using on it. And with that, we've achieved an additional 20 degrees on the cold side and been able to not have any issues.
That's great, especially for our Alaska customers, I would think. I was really impressed by the shipping benefits where it's non-hazardous. Can you talk a little bit about the lead time for the 8Z?
So the lead times do vary tremendously depending on the time of year and exactly what's going on, and the fact that this is a fully customizable unit. As I mentioned, we've got the 4 different options. And SENS is an ISO 9001 type of company when it comes to our production. Therefore, we do not keep stock. That being said, we generally speaking are averaging between 2 and 6 weeks for a nominal quantity of units to be ordered. Sometimes we're able to get a small quantity dropped in for production in a shorter time period. However, if you're looking at a very large order, definitely reach out to us well in advance so that we can make sure that we're meeting your needs, because it is very possible that it could exceed that 6 to 8 week window.
Yeah, thanks. I know specifically Renosa does a lot of forecasting with SENS on the 8Z, and any of our customers who are really maybe concerned about the lead time or have that kind of forecasting in advance, that's really helpful for us if you know there's going to be a big order coming. That's all the questions I had. Let's see, we got a couple of other folks here in the room. So if any of you have a comment or a question that you want to add, now would be the time.
Tony, one question on the 8Z rack. Does it come pre-wired and pre-assembled?
Yes, ma'am, it does. So based on the spec that the customer does provide and the overall design, everything is 100% assembled for you at the factory and tested and certified as ready to go. All you have to do as the end user or the installer is hook up your DC connections, your AC connection points, and then whatever your communications is that you're using at that particular site, and you are up and running.
Great. Is there any commissioning that's required for the 8Z, Tony?
Commissioning, no, not exactly. Although that being said, as I mentioned before, when the 8Z comes from the factory, it is not necessarily 100% charged. Therefore, you will need to provide a top-off charge, if you will, once you get it to either your installation location or whatever. So you do need to take that into account as far as your scheduling for commissioning of the units, etc. But once again, per 8Z, it's a 110 power source, 4.4 amps of load at 110, and it takes 6.6 hours to charge.
Fantastic. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, thanks, Tony. We really appreciate you doing this for us, and we're excited to get the word out to folks about the 8Z, and hopefully we'll be talking more about other products in the future.
Excellent. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for joining us on today's episode. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about the companies that Renosa represents, stay on for a few minutes with Austin.
Hello, and thanks for connecting with us. Austin Toth here from Renosa. We're a manufacturer's rep firm covering the Pacific Northwest, including Alaska, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana. And we like to be a one-stop shop for everything that goes along with the backup.
Thanks for joining us on today's
genset.
episode.
So
If you'd like to learn a little bit more
anything
about the
backup,
companies that Renosa
primary
represents,
power
stay on for a
generator,
few
we
minutes
like
with
to
Austin.
be a connection point, and I'd like to run through our lines real quick that we carry. And so to start off, we'll go on the electrical product side. We have Active Power as well as Pillar. Pillar is a flywheel rotary UPS system, and Active Power also has battery backup UPS systems. We also have a company called Direct Wire. They do cable, industrial cables and wires. Usually they're cam lock connection cables for load bank or temporary generator hookup. Fox Fab is based out of Vancouver, BC. They are a camlock connection cabinet, manual transfer switch, Kurt key interlock, triple switches, anything you need on site for camlock connections between the primary gen and the load. They also recently incorporated an ATS line, which combines the ATS and then either a temp gen and or a load bank camlock connection cabinet into one unit. So it's kind of an all-in-one solution. And then we have Stored Energy Systems, SENS. They're a genset and industrial battery charging company based out of Colorado. They do DC power systems. They use SAFT and nickel cadmium alcad batteries. They also have a brand new product called the 8Z, which is an all-in-one genset starting system using nickel-zinc battery chemistry. And it's kind of the new thing. It's the Ferrari of offerings. We have Simplex, which is load banks. We have freestanding and radiator mount, as well as resistive and reactive load banks. And then last on the electrical product side is Marathon, which does alternators, 5 kilowatts to 4 megawatts. They have heavy duty, harsh duty, Mariner rated units, the Lima Max, responder duty, and then pancakes alternators as offerings. And then on the mechanical side of our line card, we have Diesel Radiator Company. They do industrial radiators, heat exchangers, coolers. They're based out of Chicago and can do retrofits and repairs, fixes of broken systems. Next is Furwin, making removable insulation blankets. They're based out of Toronto, high temperature thermal insulation products, very customizable wraps and snaps, anything that you need. Next is Fuel Technologies, based out of Las Vegas, fuel maintenance systems or fuel polishers for the diesel storage tanks. 1,000 gallon tanks up to 60,000 gallon tanks, single tank systems as well as multi-tank systems. And Fuel Technologies FTI is the only FM approved fuel polisher available on the market. Next is Miratech Corporation. They do exhaust silencers. They've got EM, Cowl. They purchased Maxim recently in the last year. So they have emission controls, SCR systems, diesel particulate filters, DOCs, and then Tier 4 compliance in Oregon and Washington specifically will be more and more prevalent as the years go by. And then Miratech also does heat recovery systems through PowerTherm. Next on the mechanical side is OptiBlend, also known as Eden Innovations. They're a biofuel system, and OptiBlend is about displacing the diesel with up to 70% natural gas or another alternative fuel, which helps lower the cost by using less diesel, as well as reducing the NOx, PM, and CO2 coming out of the genset by removing diesel and making natural gas more of the combustible component. On the mechanical side, we also have Simplex for day tanks and fuel maintenance systems, pump sets, filtration, that kind of thing. And then last but not least, on our mechanical side is Sutton Stromont, which is another radiator company, and they do heavy duty, harsh environment radiators. So we sell a lot of those up in Alaska specifically, but they can be incorporated harsh duty on the coast, islands, Hawaii, that kind of thing. Thank you so much. And please feel free to reach out to myself, Austin, covering Oregon and Washington. My co-owner, Dustin, covers Idaho, Alaska, and Montana. And then my coworker, Lori Jane, is also on board. So thank you so much, and we'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.